Hello, this is Strategy Miscellany, and this is episode 4 of our Rule the Waves campaign as France. It is September 1909. We are currently at war with Italy. It's only been about 3 months. We're winning, but not by a huge margin. And one thing I realized is if I look at the Med and I look at our invasion range, I think I can plan an invasion of one of these Italian territories. If it's within these circles from my territories, that means I can do that. So, for example, Sardinia, and I can hit invasion target here, and then it costs me more per turn. Now, this budget looks worrying, but the good news is I've got two very expensive coastal forts that are going to be done building this turn, and after that, my budget should be a lot more balanced. And so we'll plan this invasion of Sardinia, and we should get basically like missions that will relate to that invasion and hopefully result in its success, which will help us win the war. So let's run the turn and see what happens. There's our turrets. Looks like no battles this turn. And Germany's my ally right now, or at least they're semi-aligned with me, so I'm going to handle it discreetly. Okay, we can't take Sardinia yet. And we do have a raid out in Eritrea, out in the Red Sea. All right, let's go. Apparently they couldn't get their forces there, so we just win that one. Nice. So pretty soon we'll have another Davout class built. I've got a couple of Rhone class light cruisers. And good, my Davout is repaired in the Med. I'm going to send another of these Vauban classes down to the Med from Northern Europe. The Italians don't really seem to be challenging me in Northern Europe at this time. So I think I can afford to send a few more ships down that way. German light cruiser. Here we go. Let's see what we can each bring. Now, I don't know if I'm invading them or if they're invading me. But either way, I guess we'll send out the fleet and see what happens. Calm day. Partly cloudy. The ocean off Algiers. Now, before too long, we'll have airplanes to worry about. But I think partially they're not here because it's only 1909. And partially they're not here because I set the development of aircraft to be slower than default. All right, looks like they've got a grand fleet and they've got a lot of battleships. Unfortunately, just as we close, it looks like night is going to start falling. Okay, the Regina Elena class is a little bit more of a serious threat. The Carlo Alberto class is, as I recall, it's a little tiny pocket battleship. I mean, 6,000 tons. Can you even call that a battleship? That's just a armored cruiser, basically. But Regina Elena, that's a real thing. And we've lost them again. Let's see if we can go try and catch their transport fleet unawares. I think they might be trying to do an invasion of Algeria, and hopefully we can catch them before they get that done. It's just unfortunate that this had to start just as night was falling. because with no radar or anything, a night battle is likely to just blunder around not finding each other. But maybe we'll get lucky and bump into them in the night. Okay, there's somebody up there. That looks like their transport fleet. All right, let's make haste. Go get them. We sank one of them. I would guess the rest of them would be heading this way, but maybe not. Okay, apparently they've made it to the coast. But where? You would think if they were here, these ships would see it. Now they do have a reporting there. You can see we've got this little flag. That means someone reported one there. Now we're in the mist and we can see even less. Well, that's clear. Hopefully they should all just be kind of sitting at anchor here, doing their landing, or attempting to. And we can hopefully sink them before they can complete their invasion. And there's their fleet there defending their landing force. Dangerous, definitely, just sitting our battleships this close to each other, kind of Nelsonianly blasting away at point blank range. Um, a lucky hit from either side could really do something pretty bad. Oh, and it's actually daylight again. All right, let's make sure we've got their transport fleet dealt with, and then we can go chase their battle fleet again. I think that Carlo Alberto there might be sinking, because otherwise I think it would be moving. Well, they did land some troops in Algeria, I think, but we definitely made them pay for it. We'll see what happens. And yeah, we'll go ahead and pick up survivors. It's the honorable thing, and it also gets us few points. All right, we did sink the Carlo Alberto, one of them. That's good. Running low on ammo. Ah, but this is one of their big ships, as I recall. This would be quite the prize if we could sink it. And it's quite damaged. Now, interestingly, we haven't seen any turret flash fires. I've played other games where that happens a lot, where you get bad luck with a turret and it gets hit and the powder goes off and the whole ship just blows up. And either it happens to you or it happens to the enemy, or both. And eventually, as those happen to you, your nation will get better at preventing them through kind of learning from experience. All right, I'm pretty sure this ship is sunk here. Although it used to say heavy damage and now it says medium, so maybe they've been doing some... Nope, yeah, we sunk it. All right, that's two of their battleships, one of which is a real battleship. And one of which is a pocket battleship. Both those sunk. That should really change the balance of forces. They did get us with a torpedo on one of our ships, though. And yeah, with these early ships without great torpedo defense, that can be real dangerous. The thing is, it's interesting because the torpedoes get more dangerous at the same time as your ships become better to defend against them. So there's kind of an arms race effect there. At the beginning of the game, the torpedoes are kind of terrible, but if one actually is lucky enough to hit, it'll do real bad damage to your ship. And we are still in the beginning era here. We're still in the first decade of the game, after all. Okay, I think the Marsala class is sunk. There's no way it's getting home. I think we can go ahead and enter port. Call it a victory today. We'll let their other ships limp home. And pretty soon the timer should expire. These invasion battles, they last 14 hours, so you get a whole... We had a long time in that one. Or 1,400 minutes, so almost a whole day, I think, really, is what we're having there. You know, it started at dusk and it's ending in late evening, so yeah. Almost a whole 24-hour period. And I don't know why it's not concluding now. There we go. Okay, so we sank two of their battleships, one light cruiser, one destroyer. But they still get a major victory because they landed troops successfully in Algiers. Hopefully we can fight them off. Okay, it was a minor victory for them. Good news is we're blockading them now. That kind of sets a timer on them. It starts to build up unrest. Yeah, we'll call it the Battle of Algiers, sure. All right, 2 more months and 'll have another Davoo. Pretty soon, these early ships are going to be marked obsolete. But we can still keep them in the fleet. It just means they're a little bit more expensive to have around. All right, we're going to hold the line because I think in the long run I can win this war. Although they've done some impressive raiding there. The victory points for it aren't so much, but I think it does mess with our economy also. All right, we don't have much. Hopefully they don't have much either. Let's see what they've got. So far, just a destroyer. Go ahead and accelerate. Well, we may not be able to find them in the dark. This may end up being a bit inclusive. Ah, well. As long as we can maintain the blockade, prevent them from taking Algeria, and successfully take Sardinia, we should win this in the long run. So, yeah, it was a draw. Here we are again, off Algeria at dusk. See how this goes. Immediately, it is night time. This may well end up being another one of those muddle around and not see each other sort of things. Now, once the second Davu works up, we'll get it into the med also. Ah, see, here we are. Here's some ships that are getting marked as obsolete. Oh dear. Now, the good news is the Austrians are just about the weakest fleet out there. And I think the Germans are still on our side. But it's still not ideal to have to fight them both at once. Ah, we would get some German allies, or so they say. I'm not sure where they are. And we have maybe an hour or two before nightfall. See if we can find them. Got to be right in front of us. There they are. Unless those are German ships, which is possible. Yeah, the Sankt Georg class, that sounds pretty German. Oh no, it's Austrian. Well, if we can find them, let's go sink some of the Habsburg Navy. All right, well, we plinked at them. The good news, though it's also kind of the bad news, is that both their ships are in the same, or both the enemy countries are in the same area of the map. They're both in the Med. So we can fairly easily fight them simultaneously, but they can also fairly easily fight us simultaneously. Look at the almanac. Okay, so the Austrians, I'm impressed. They have an actually existing dreadnought, which the US has and Britain has, but nobody else has an actually existing dreadnought yet except for the Austro-Hungarians. So props to them for that. And an actual battle cruiser. I'm a little worried about Austro-Hungary, honestly. Budget's a lot better than Italy, too. Now, one thing I do need is I should build a few more submarines. And well, let's see if we can at least knock Italy out of the war and then maybe make a peace with Austria. Nope, needs more trade protection. Of course. All right, we'll see what they say about sort of a compromise peace. All right, so we ended up with just kind of a status quo peace. Apparently, the minor territories were so minor that we don't even have to show them on the map. Good news is, now that the war is over, we can finish some of these constructions and then we can start in on designing new ships. And I'm going to just scrap a lot of these old destroyers here, these 500-ton destroyers. Some of the larger ships might be worth actually retrofitting. But these little ones I think I can just scrap. Build a new destroyer design. Yeah, that's kind of my view, is that these light cruisers and destroyers, they're not really worth rebuilding. But battleships and heavy cruisers are generally more worth rebuilding. So what you do for that is you open the design for rebuild. Okay, so one thing we can do is make the guns slightly better. Should be able to upgrade the fire control also. That's good. And then if I want to, I could replace the machinery, but it would make it considerably more expensive to do this rebuild. It would, however, let us increase the speed of the ship, probably. All right, so this is just a real simple rebuild. Go ahead and take a couple of them in hand for rebuild. And then we got to move a bunch of our ships from the Med back to Northern Europe. All right, now where do we need tonnage? West Africa and the Indian Ocean. Okay. All right, once we've finished a few of these rebuilds, it'll be time to, and a couple of these build outs here, it'll be time to do some redesigns. But for now, let's go forwards. Another thing we can do is put everybody at home on reserve now that the war is over. All right, it's January 1911. We've had some advances in technology. And so I think it is time for us to design some new ship models. We need a new destroyer model, and we need some new light and heavy cruiser models. And before too long, we need a proper dreadnought, but we'll build the smaller ones first. So I'll show you what I have in a minute here. Here are the new designs we have. So we have the Lille class here, the Lille class. It is an armored cruiser, 7,300 tons. A couple of 9-inch guns, some torpedoes, can go 24 knots. Heavier armor, 6-inch guns on the sides. Not a world-changing ship, but an improvement for sure. Then we have, let's see, what else do we have here? We have the Matisse class. That's our new destroyer. It's got a lot of torpedoes, just one gun on the front. Really leaning into the torpedoes, the torpedo thing. And it's also extremely fast. It goes 29 knots. So much faster than any of our earlier destroyers. And then lastly, we have a new corvette here, the Vendémiaire class. It's got 4 5-inch guns. It's not super fast. This is more of like a ship for trade protection duties or kind of last minute reinforcements, sort of patrolling the coast, that sort of thing. So that's that. The next big ship design I want to do, well, let's see. Which one of the Rhone and the Somme is the one that has the long range for colonial service? The Somme is the one for that. So let's build one of those. And then once we get through this, it'll be time to design our first dreadnought. Really, we should have done that sooner. We got distracted by other things. I thought the Davout was going to be a dreadnought, but we just didn't have the tech for it. And so hopefully this will let that change things. And we can be more successful in our next war instead of just fighting to a stalemate. All right, it is July 1912, and we are finally building some proper modern ships. We've got the Bernadotte class battlecruiser, another of Napoleon's marshals, maybe one who had a bit of a change in career later on. He was elected King of Sweden and ended up fighting against Napoleon, but we'll ignore that for now. And let me just open the design, show you what we've got here. So 25,000 tons. It's got six heavy guns. There's not that many, but they are 15-inch guns, which is pretty impressive. The ship is actually only immune to its own guns at 13,000 yards. Everywhere else, it starts to have trouble with the deck farther out and trouble with the belt closer in. But the good news is that means that you'll be able to blast through at close range most of the enemy belt that we're facing. And at long range, hopefully, a lot of the enemy deck that we're facing and the enemy belt on anything but the largest ships. It has 8 little 5-inch guns as kind of the backup. You know, the idea with the Dreadnought is all big guns, but you keep some of the little ones for defense against torpedo boats and things. Unfortunately, we're still using coal because we don't have a good source of oil, but it can go 26 knots, which I think is why it's classified as a battle cruiser, that it goes that fast. Um, Unfortunately, unlike the historical British battle cruisers, it can't just fire everything forwards. It does need to turn to do a broadside. But it can do a good broadside in both directions with 6 guns. It's got 11.5 inches of belt armor, 11 inches on the conning tower, and 2 inches on the deck. Turrets are very heavily armored. My hope is that the Bernadotte will do well come the next war. Now, the other question is, who will we fight the next war against? It's always possible we can end up fighting the Italians or the Austrians again. With Germany, we still have a good truce going. Hopefully that keeps up. Britain, I would really rather not fight. Their budget is almost double mine. In fact, I think it might be more than double mine, actually. And I just think they would pretty much annihilate me if we fought. They're just right now still out of my weight class. Italy or Austria alone, I should beat fairly easily, considering the difference in naval budgets. Although I am impressed with Austria, what they've done with such a small budget. I have to admit I'm quite impressed with that. And the U.S., tension is low. I'd rather not fight them. They're also higher budgeted than me by a considerable amount right now. And generally their economy will grow faster too, which makes them a threat in the longer game. Now, the interesting kind of wild card here, you can see the tension with Japan. And I have a higher budget. Once my battle cruiser is done, I should have a stronger fleet all around than Japan. The thing with Japan, though, is, if you haven't noticed, they're on the other side of the world. So I would have to do sort of a grand cruise around the world with a lot of my fleet before I was attacking their home areas. Which we could do. It's not like my ships are short range, and I have coaling stations at pretty much every stop of the way. So it wouldn't be quite so bad as, say, when the Russians tried to do this with their Pacific Squadron of the Baltic Fleet and ended up losing at Tsushima after an epic voyage of misadventures. We should be able to do better than that, and so that's definitely an option. But for now, I'm going to leave the episode here. It is July 1912. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.